Does anyone actually remember Anger Management? It was a series made to capitalize on the fame, and at the time infamy, of its leading man. You see, mid-mental breakdown, Charlie Sheen decided to make a comeback. So after his very public firing from 2.5 Men, this show was slopped together to put him back on screen. That's right, it's a second-rate Charlie Sheen show based on a second-rate Adam Sandler movie. I mean, hey, I liked it, but let's be honest. It's not exactly The Wedding Singer. Although, having said that, at least it's not Hubie Halloween levels of bad. There was definitely interest in this show. For a short time being. But that had less to do with the product, and more to do with who the face of it was. And because of that, and a guarantee for 100 episodes, I don't think this show ever really tried. Anger Management lacked vision, it lacked direction, but it didn't lack purpose. No, Anger Management had a purpose, and that purpose was to profit. Profit as much as possible, as fast as possible, while it is still possible. The show was only on the air for 2 years, and within that time they made 100 episodes, with the expressed intent of getting the series into syndication. However, it would seem that those efforts were in vain, as the show didn't stay in syndication for all that long. Its reruns were taken off the air before the 2020s even hit. Now look, I'm not saying Anger Management was a shallow, cheap attempt at capitalizing off the star's irrelevancy. Oh, wait a second. Yes, I am. That's exactly what I'm saying. The show was dependent on Sheen's involvement, and it'll let you know that. More often than not, this series would focus more on tongue-in-cheek gags toward the star's last gig than on whatever story it was loosely trying to tell. I kid you not, this is the first series made out of spite.
You can't fire me. I quit. I gotta stop wearing these anyway. They don't breathe. They stink. I think I'll just chuck it. Think you can replace me with some other guy? Go ahead. It won't be the same.
This is your dream? You should at the very least a jingle writer living in Malibu.
The jingle writer thing sucks. You may think I'm losing, but I'm not. Anyway, you get the idea. Bobo, our new bopping bag, to express your anger in a healthy way.
Generally speaking, the show was just winking and nodding at Charlie Sheen specifically, bringing on actors and actresses Sheen's had relationships with, or relation to. Charlie plays Charlie, his friend Michael plays his friend Michael, his father Martin plays his father Martin, his daughter Sam does not play his daughter Sam, but he does have a daughter Sam on the show, so they share a name. Charlie's ex Denise Richards, who once told Sheen that he needed anger management, makes an appearance here on his show, Anger Management. And his colleague Brett plays his bartender Brett. While Charlie is now an anger management therapist, prior to this he's shown to have been a professional baseball player. Because Charlie, in real life, loves baseball, used to play it in college, and was the lead in the baseball movie Major League, which is something that gets brought up yet again in the series finale, which sees him reunite with his Major League co-star, Corbin Benson. Corbin plays the character of Roger, much like he did in that film. He also refers to Charlie as Wild Thing, which was his character's nickname in that movie. I can't even name how many times characters share the same name as their actors. I mean, I kinda just did, but I want you to know that this extends to the show's guest stars as well. Very often are actors asked to appear on the show as very thinly veiled versions of themselves, sharing the same name, sharing a lot of the same traits, and sharing some stories about their real personal lives. All of this must have been incredibly funny for one man, and that's the guy this show was centered around. It's all very, very meta, and unfortunately that is all that is. Its priorities were almost always in the wrong place, if it had them at all. The show chased trends to a pretty desperate level. Hey, Lindsay Lohan has notoriety for all the wrong reasons, just like Charlie. Well, we get her on the show. And that's pretty much how every pitch for every episode went. Now, it may sound like at this point in the video I haven't talked a lot about the content of the show, but there's actually not a lot of content to talk about. And yet somehow, I still don't even know where to start. Anger Management sees Charlie Sheen play a wealthy womanizer named Charlie. Not entirely unlike his time on 2.5 Men, where Charlie Sheen played a wealthy womanizer named Charlie. Except this time around, there's no Alan, no Jake, and no substance. Gone was the heart of that series, and in its place was a cheap laugh track and reused jokes. The show was constantly being reworked and retooled, shifting relationships, shuffling around characters, phasing out once important parts. Let me show you what I mean. By just mentioning one character on the show, we're going to have a trickle effect that goes throughout the entire series, and you'll see just how much changes in a very short amount of time. Now, the series started with Charlie and his love interest, Kate. The two are therapists who are together, physically, though they're separate emotionally, which leads to a real will they, won't they dynamic, even though they have and they currently are. Admittedly, it was kind of an interesting dynamic, all things considered. Actually, I'd say it was maybe one of the most entertaining elements this new series offered up, because it was one of the very few new things this show did, as opposed to just blatantly rehash the past, which wasn't all that past at the time, actually. Except Charlie Sheen found himself less fond of his colleague than his on-screen self was.
I don't like hitting Charlie. Charlie and I still like each other, maybe like in another 20 episodes.
Problems would occur between the two co-stars, with actress Selma Blair questioning Charlie Sheen's work ethic. Sheen, who had still been spiraling at this point, basically told the studio that he refused to work with her any longer, leading to Blair's dismissal from the show shortly therein, with her character Kate abruptly being written off, halfway through the show, 52 episodes in to a 100-episode show. Now, considering that the show sort of centered around this non-romantic romance, this changed everything. But you know, it's like the old expression goes, when the door closes on one doctor, the door opens up for another. And in Kate's absence, the show created Jordan. Now, while this character is a replacement for Charlie's love interest, she's not a replacement love interest for Charlie, as the two don't seem to have that dynamic. Instead, she's the interest of Charlie's friend Sean, and that's Charlie's friend Sean, who was originally written to be Charlie's enemy Sean.
And I hope that maybe even someday you and I could be friends. What do you say?
85% chance that'll never happen.
Sean started off the show as Charlie's ex-wife's new boy toy. In the first season, and some of the second, he and Charlie are constantly bickering and at each other's throats. But luckily, breakups come in twos, as around the same time that Kate and Charlie split, so do Jen and Sean. Well, actually, technically speaking, Sean and Jen get back together to be split apart shortly thereafter, with Charlie's ex-wife leaving her new boyfriend for the same reason that she left him: constant cheating. Now, what's weird is this somehow formed a bond between the two bad boyfriends, which was good timing because the role of best friend had just recently opened up. See, prior to this frenemyship, Charlie's best bud was Michael, a man who is unlucky in love but lucky in like, as he mooches off his wealthy friend every chance he gets. And he was written off the series around the same time that Sean was written into a more major role, though he did manage to come back for a one-off guest appearance. So, we'll always have that. And he was far from the only person being written out. When the show started off, one of the more identifiable and distinct differences between Two and a Half Men's Charlie and Anger Management's Charlie was that this Charlie was a family man, the father of a teenage daughter who suffered from severe OCD. Sam was a good addition to plots, because her presence in Charlie's life at times could make him reconsider how he treats women, or the kind of example that he's setting for his kid. So, we really needed to get rid of that as soon as possible, because we just want to do what Two and a Half Men did, but less good. Which I think was also the motto for the last 4 seasons of that show as well. It was decided that somehow Sam must be what was getting in the way of the series' success. So after the halfway point, she's gone too. There's a bunch of minor characters that also transitioned in and out of the picture at times, and then there are those who stick around but their part in the story drastically changes. Ed goes from being Charlie's patient to being his father's partner in crime. Things are always changing, and not in a natural, evolutionary type of way. In a, the writers are running around like chickens with their heads cut off and have no idea what to do next type of way. Anger Management almost feels about as canonically consistent as American Horror Story, which is a show that uses the same cast but changes their characters every season. Now, all of that sounds like a lot, and it is. But what's important to note is that all of these changes happen right around the same time, at the halfway point in the series. which kind of inadvertently divides the show into feeling like two even shorter-lived separate series. The show felt like a lame retread of the last Sheen show, an attempt at recapturing lightning in a bottle, though I guess it's a better attempt than that same show in Sheen's absence. I think another factor this series had running against it was that Charlie Sheen was very clearly aging. And hey, it happens. Trust me. It happens. My point here is that the aging womanizer routine might have been fun on 2.5 Men, and it might have even been acceptable to see that character do this well into their 50s. But that's because we've had several seasons of him acting that way when he was younger. So if the show had to progress and continue on, Charlie would still have to be Charlie. He would still have to stay true to the character that was already established. Suffice it to say, starting a show off with a 47-year-old ladies' man isn't the same as starting a show off with a 37-year-old ladies' man and watching him progress. One just kind of seems more legitimate than the other. The show is shot pretty poorly. I mean, it's competent, but once again, that's all it is. Its method of storytelling is incredibly flat. It's your standard shot reverse shot. I mean, granted, I wouldn't say that 2.5 Men was exactly cinema, but this was worse, with a worse effect. Even as the episodes change, the shots stay the same. The same 3 sets, the same 2 camera angles, and the same scene in almost every episode of Charlie in bed with the flavor of the day. Seriously, this isn't an exaggeration. It sure sounds like it is, but as you can tell by the accompanying footage that I'm editing in here, it's not. And these aren't the only shots like that, obviously. There's a lot more, but we only have very little time here. There's also a lack of events in these episodes. When trying to put together this video, I really struggled finding fun footage of the show to show you, because there's never really anything fun going on. It's just a bunch of still shots of people talking. That's not to say that interesting things don't happen. That's to say that interesting things don't happen on screen. Very often we hear about these over-the-top stories, but we're never shown them. Instead, we're treated to the fallout of them. Or alternatively, we'll see the characters reacting to a scenario that we never get to see. This wasn't anger management the show. This was anger management the tell. There's also a lot of story beats and elements that are often reused and recycled ad nauseum. A lot of the time, these were never funny in the first place, so I don't understand why we needed a second, third, fourth, and fifth time. Just to give you a small example, for some reason, everyone seems to steal everyone else's phone in this show, and then they show it to somebody else later on. I don't know why this happens, but it happens a lot. Anger management may not have been good, but it was at the very least mostly okay. Like, I wouldn't go out of my way to put it on, but I don't know that I would necessarily immediately turn it off if I stumbled upon it. Which is more than I can say for late 2.5 Men, because I'll take these 2 seasons over those last 3 any day of the week. The series lacked a premise, and more importantly, it lacked purpose beyond profit. I don't think that the show is remembered, but if it is remembered, it's remembered as that show that Charlie Sheen did after getting fired from his big gig. Ultimately, I think the series suffered from the start. It was always trapped in a creative purgatory for which there was no escape from, but they wouldn't have tried to find one anyway. Having said that, I don't know that you can accurately give a date when this show died, because it feels like it failed initially, and then it tried something else, and then it failed again. So if anything, it died twice. Actually, I don't know if it ever really lived. There were elements to this that could have worked, and some of which actually did. But they mean very little in the big picture. There's just nothing done with them. Whenever there was any good on the show, it was never properly capitalized on, because no one cared. So, having said that, that was anger management. And if you like this video and would maybe like to see me take a look back at the rest of the series, in my ongoing anger management retrospective, let me know in the comment section below by leaving a comment saying,
"Some kinds of anger can't be managed."
I am vengeance. I am the night, and that was V Infuso. Just remember, if you're not tuning in, then you're missing out.
So, if you like the words that came out of his mouth hole, and you too would like to become a V-generate Don't forget to like and subscribe. Thanks for watching, nerds!
And if you're not joining the fun, you're in for one bad day. And you know what they say about having one bad day?
Catch him next time. Same bat time. Same bat channel.